What will happen with this Acura Integra Type R auction listing when the BaT community discovers that this car has a secret racing history? Will it ruin the auction or will it bring more money? Let's find out.
Bit Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
Just a really nice looking 2000 Acura Integra Type R with just 17,000 miles. It does have some aftermarket wheels and a little toe strap coming out of the front. But by and large, this looks like a relatively unmolested, original, and basically stock Type R. New Type Rs are all the rage right now. Our shout out to our friend Jeff Chu, who's got the brand new one. Based on the smile on his face when I asked him about it, he's loving that car. But this is a really cool car. It's got a DC Sports headers. It's got an aftermarket radiator and those beautiful 15-inch Rays Volk racing wheels, which I imagine are, either forged or magnesium. Adjustable coilovers. But other than that, it's all there. Limited slip differential, great handling, arguably the best handling front-wheel drive car of all time. I dig this thing. I have always wanted one. Just 3 previous owners. Again, our car's on BaT. It's got 17,000 miles. It's offered out of Moonachie, New Jersey. So if Jabroni's watching, you can ask him if there's any nice cars in Moonachie, New Jersey, because he's from Philadelphia, and New Jersey's right across the bridge. So there you go, JP. Any love for the Type R? I know you kind of dig them, but would you ever own a car like that?
Nope. This car does zero for me. It's great.
Really?
Whatever. It's like, yes, I know. Yes, I know. It's great. But I don't want one. I don't want to be seen. I'd sooner buy the MR2. What do you think, Wade?
Yeah, it doesn't really do. I don't know if I'd go that far, but
yeah,
oh my God. I wouldn't go that far. This car doesn't really do much for me either. I'm surprised that it's a multi-owner car with relatively low miles and nobody slammed it and made it awful. The wheels are kind of ugly, but
it's lower though. That's not a factory ride height.
Yeah, I mean,
that's coilovers.
Other than that, I mean, it's a relatively clean car, which is surprising. And it's weird that it's a New Jersey car and not like a Southern California car. So it's probably been passed from collector to collector at this point. But other than that, I don't care about it too much. I don't know that I would drive it or buy it. But I wouldn't. Come on, I wouldn't get an MR2 over this. Come on.
Well, look, I'm not. Of course, everyone's all binary. Oh, that means you think the MR2 is better. It's like, no, it's not. It's just I'd rather be out $9,000 than $80,000 or whatever this thing's gonna bring. And for a car, I could give a shit about. Mental, tell us how much you like this stupid thing.
So years ago, when these things first came out, I had an opportunity to autocross one of these, and it was awesome because you could do the entire autocross course in first gear, because at the time no vehicle wound this high. There's some interesting stuff here that is giving me pause, and the Nerd Herd is picking up on it too. So Anthony is joining us here. This hood panel gap, something happened to the front end of this car. Now,
it hit something.
Right. And so as a driver, this is great. It's a fun car. As a collector, no. And I see where JP's coming from, the not wanting to be seen in this. It wouldn't bother me as much because there's just here, especially here in Vegas.
I mean, if you're seen in a Miata,
right? But here in Vegas, these are because this is a legit one, and there's so many posers. But that is not a standard Acura panel gap right there on this car. So there are things on there that are giving me, if they're trying to sell it as a collector, if they're trying to sell it as a fun enthusiast car, I'm all about it.
Yeah, there's something doesn't smell right on this thing. Is it going to bring the money, or are these panel gaps going to freak everybody out? What's your bid, Michael Deeb?
I don't think the panel gaps are going to freak people out. I think the miles are going to drive this car. And so I'm going to go $59,000, and I think it'll sell.
Oh, God, I guess. I just don't care. I just don't. What'd you say, 59, 55?
Yeah.
Then fine. I don't, what do I know? What do you think, Wade?
I think I'll go higher, 62,000, and I hope somebody enjoys it, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll probably sell for 55, and I'm not sure it's going to be well bought.
Yeah, I really think.
Different bid. Mental differentiate your bid from JP. JP bid 55.
All right, I'm 55,993.
Yeah, there you go. Look, the BAT comments are brutal. You don't think this is going to be all over that? I mean, people.
Oh yeah, seriously. Let's go back to your 914, Deeb, and you don't think anyone on BAT is going to notice those panel gaps in the front and rear bumpers?
Yeah, right. But it's already it's at 40 grand right now, and it's got 2 days to close. So I think it's going to bring 50% more money. I agree. I think the panel gaps are bad, but a sub 20,000 mile Integra Type R is still going to bring do-re-mi.
All right, and I just want to pause right here and tell everyone that for the bid nerds, Anthony has won the comments tonight because he says this thing was a streetcar scene that was put back together. It's gross like New Jersey. There we go. The comments.
Do we
the
think
winning
that
of the comments?
Is this likely the kind of car that had the odometer disconnected?
No,
Probably.
no. I think it's a legit low mile car that
Why?
got tapped.
I mean, why not? I mean, if the comment just said this is a car that was in the street racing scene, that's absolutely the kind of
street
stuff.
scene, just street scene, because that's why it's slightly lowered. This thing did a lot of hard parking in parking lots.
But why? At what point do you think somebody would have the forethought to do that? I mean,
Ask our
or
good
6
friend
years-
Jason Alter, who bought his Volkswagen Corrado in about the same era and disconnected the odometer and plugged it back in. Yes, I just called you out. It's way past the statute of limitations. You're fine. You're not going to jail. Says the FBI. But no, I think this is absolutely the kind of car that they would disconnect and plug it back in. Yeah, I mean, the street scene, there's no such thing as hard parking in an
All you got to
Acura
do
Type
is
R.
look at the driver's seat, and it'll tell you how many miles are on
it's
it.
in Jersey. So, give me a second.
Jazzy, you just drop the Type R. Basically, if you're going to say Jersey, you just you take the R out of Jersey and put it on your car, and that's how you say Jersey.
All right, here we go. We do have the interior pictures. Oof, man, let's go to JP on this one. Oof, that side bolster makes me nervous.
There's a close up.
This car has 130,000 miles on it. This thing's a pile of shit. This thing is a pile of shit. Good luck to the moron that buys this thing. We're going to find out what the results of this car. Hey guys, I got to tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you got to call our friend Steve at Godden. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, I'm super excited to tell you about our sponsor, Guys Customs. Custom bracelets made to match your watch or your car. Unbelievable. You got to get one of these Guys Customs bracelets. Check them out. They support us, and we really, really, really want to support them. Guys Customs bracelets. All right, let's get back to the bids. Let's find out how much that car sold for today.
The controversial car of the week is this 2000 Acura Integra Type R with just 17,000 original miles out of Moonachie, New Jersey, by the seller Vantage Auto. It was interesting because as we were reviewing the car, the reason why I picked the car was because it had such low miles. As we were looking at it, the herd jumped in to point out while we were reviewing it live that the front clip and the rear clip were not fitting right. This car is lowered. It's got aftermarket wheels. There's a toe strap hanging out the front. And now the bodywork is not affixed or returned to the car properly, which begs the question, how is it coming off in the first place if this is a low-mile example? So as the car was coming to a close, Mental read a lot of the comments. Simultaneously, Chris Carbine read a bunch of the comments and reached out to me. And Mental and I sort of found out around the same time, in real time, that it had been discovered that this car was previously completely gutted of its interior. They bolted in a roll cage and took this car racing. In order to prepare it for the sale, they took the cage back out of the car, put the interior back on, and rolled the car in front of photos and put it on Bring a Trailer. This was exposed in the comments. The car did not moonshot to the money that I thought it was going to get when I originally selected the car. And certainly my bid is more reflective of a little bit greater value. But Mental and I spoke before we came on to do the show, JP, and we both agree, and we know you'll agree too, that the greatest shout out for the result on this car goes to the herd itself for being so good and so smart, having such a trained and education eye, and the fact that they engaged with us and spoke up in real time that there was something completely off, which came to bear light and is in a lot of ways reflected in the price. When we talk about number 3 and number 4 values, 1 being Concord, 2 being excellent, 3 being good, and 4 being fair, good value for an Integra Type R is about $47,000. And that's sort of what this car is. I would think that a car that needed to be restored, a car that had been, basically in an accident, or maybe had a total or some title issues, branded titles, would be a fair value car in that $35,000 range. But the result of this car at $49,000 winds up being sort of in line with the value aspect. It does have low miles, but this car has had a very, very rough 17,000 miles to it. And the value is bore out. Now, I kind of gave us dessert before we had the dinner. I came in at about $59,000 thinking that despite the clips being off and some aftermarket wheels, that somebody would just go goo-goo over this with the low miles and pay big money for it. JP just reacted to my bid and took the under at 55. Wade kind of ignored those things and took the over on me at $62,000. And then Mental parked his bid just a few hundred over JP's at 55.9. So John's bid wound up being the low bid and thus the winner at $49,000, sold on 24 bids. But the fact that the car had been gutted, caged, and raced was disclosed. And this is, I think, an educated offer for the car, and it's sold for that number, which I'd say, my opinion, that's in line with what the value should be, despite knowing that this car has had a rough history. Before we go just a little bit further, just a side note, John, you won the last 3 cars in a row. You're actually having a very good week. Maybe you should work another job simultaneous to the podcast more often. Rochelle told me to say that.
Yeah, it was interesting how you passive-aggressively basically poo-pooed all my bids that happened to be the correct ones on all 3 of those. Like, oh, yeah, he got it right, but it was like we were all way off, and this one was like, he just parked it right under me. It's like,
marginalize your results.
Yeah, all right. So nice comeback saying that, you got them all right, even though I shit on all your bids. All right, but you got them all wrong. Okay, so this car, look, the boys in Oyster Bay are calling. They want their listing back. What the hell happened? Why is this? Like, I saw the text coming from you and Mental. You guys were talking, that Integra. And, I think you guys remember from the other side of this one when we were making the predictions. I could give a ish about this car. This is just not, I just don't really like these at all. And so I just don't care. But, looking at all the stuff that you guys were talking about, something's not quite right here. But seeing all the comments in the text thread that you guys were sending me, I had to go, wait, what platform was that on? And I had to actually pull up the spreadsheet and go look at the list. I was like, wait, this is on BAT? This is on BAT? How the hell did that happen? Like, how did this listing not get pulled? This is straight up fraud.
Wade, let Mental answer this because Mental brought up a really good point. Go ahead, Mental. Say what you're going to say.
Oh, okay. About what? I'm sorry. I was actually
the fact that a car that's raced is never going to show up on a car.
Oh, yes. Report. So, and this, I don't think Vantage Auto is to blame here. I think Vantage Auto bought what they thought was, in fact, a low mile thing, and the person that got it to them or someone came through there did that because races don't show up on Carfax. If you don't, if I gut a car and do it, the infamous story about the old Shelby GT500H that went racing. Yeah, you could do this. And unless one of these eagle-eyed commenters starts noticing, then you start digging into it. And they did some work and they found the VIN code. And it was you're not getting much past gearheads, especially nerds, like all of the nerds we have.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, it's legit. The seller was legit. I'm not saying that the seller was trying to pull something janky here, but P-Car Market, BAT should have gotten halfway into this listing and said, all right, hold on. We have a reputable seller, but clearly they were duped or somebody screwed something up, and we have a listing here that describes a car in a certain way that is not true. We need to reset. We're going to pull this. We either need to rewrite the copy for the listing to represent it in a way that makes sense, which I don't think is fair if anyone had bid on it already, because anyone who would bid on it under the idea that this car was not some kind of previous race car thing, the idea that this is an all original car, hit the brakes, BAT. Come back with copy that actually makes sense and relist it and just be upfront and be transparent. What do you think, Wade?
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Michael Deeb. What were you going to say?
I just sorry, Wade. I know I step on your toes all the time, but John, this is not the first car that rolled across the block that may have been raced prior to it being listed that wasn't disclosed. Every single car that comes on these things is buyer beware. It's up to you to check it out or have it inspected if you're going to put up $25,000 or $35,000. I don't know if I agree that BAT should have stopped this and asked everybody, hey, are you sure you know what you're getting into? We just found out this car had been raced. I don't think that's BAT's responsibility. The seller, I don't think you should pass it off on the seller. He may or may not own the car, or he may be a shop that is consigning it for a client, which is, way more in style and more common now than it was when you and I first started doing the show like 3 years ago. I don't personally actually take any issue because look, the herd of BAT spoke up and said, hey, this is that car that guy used to race. And then they conveyed that it was a previously raced car. And then it's all out there. Now, if you had bid on it and you were the high man and that came to light, you didn't like that, and you asked your bid to be removed, then BAT should absolutely pull your bid and not hold that over your head from future bidding as like a boy that cried wolf sort of scenario. But I don't take issue with the fact that was disclosed in the middle of the listing. That's what the comments are for, and I feel like it worked. And I think
it wasn't disclosed hold on, it wasn't disclosed in the middle of the listing. It was disclosed in the comments when people uncovered it, but it's not in the listing at all. This car is represent.
That's what I meant in the comments, that it came out in the comments while the car was live.
Copy says, and I quote, "This Integra Type R shows 17,000 miles and is now offered by the selling dealer with a clean Carfax report and a New Jersey title." Again, P-Car Market, all right, you know what you're getting into. BAT has a higher standard, I thought. I don't think Doug DeMiro would do this if you were on Cars and Bids. Cars and Bids, one of the things about their listings that I like is that they've got those, kind of like known issues. They ask you, are there any issues about this car? And then that's listed in the listing. This shit was buried, man. And BAT, this seller was caught. And again, I don't think the seller was doing something wrong, but the person that passed it off on them, I feel like the seller didn't do their due diligence. Someone should have figured this out, and it should have been disclosed before it was listed. It shouldn't have taken the community to sleuth this ish. Wade, what do you think?
I have a couple perspectives on it. I think from the seller, the dealer, whoever has it, you can ask certain questions from a consignor, from a seller, from a person. I don't know that anybody who consigns a car asks one way or another, was this car ever ripped apart and taken on the racetrack for however many thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, even 10 miles, whatever? Maybe that isn't a question that comes up. I think from BAT and the commenters and bidders perspectives, I've seen BAT pull listings with fewer comments than this listing, with maybe less controversial things about a vehicle. I've also seen sellers say, hang on, this is incorrect or this is whatever. Let's pull the listing and regroup and, rephrase however this is, or get some documentation, or if something's wrong with the car service-wise, they'll pull it and relist it a week or two later when things are sorted. It's odd to me that with seemingly so many comments and the value potentially being impacted, that neither the seller or consignor nor the commenters or bidders had enough pull or say to actually stop the listing one way or another. And I wonder if there was somebody somewhere along the way, whether it was the seller, consignor, or BAT, somebody had to make a decision and say, we see these comments, but it is what it is. And I wonder who said it. Maybe the consignor, maybe BAT was like, this is just something where if you do your research on cars and you happen to find something that isn't like it was flooded and, hidden via fraud or totaled and there was insurance, this isn't something that is like disclosed in a normal car history. So maybe it's just not within their realm to handle it in that kind of way. I don't know, but it is odd. And it is something that an astute person, obviously all the nerds picked out on, and even you did as well, as you were last show, kind of looking through the pictures and agreeing different gaps, different things. You also alluded to the fact that maybe the odometer was pulled and maybe that also was, impacted one way or another. And that's probably a different story. So man, what a pick. What a pick.
Hey, Mental, I have a question for you as a person who like really hobby races. Any car that's used for service has to have a branded title that say this car was used as a rental. Any car that's had flood damage or odometer statements, we get all these different ways that you can brand a title. Yet one of the first things you said when we were talking offline was race cars, nobody has to disclose that a car had been previously raced. Do you think, Mental, and I'm really putting you on the spot here, a car that is raced like your Miata or like this Integra, do you think that the titles of those cars should be branded forever, that this car was used on a closed course with the inch of its life, at such extreme, whatever you call it, dynamics? Do you think that should be disclosed on cars moving forward, which would have solved the issue for this car here?
It's up to the site in a lot of places, and I think they may have actually gotten more traction if they'd have led with this.
No. Hold on. I'm sorry.
No.
That's not the question. He's
the question
asking
is
the title should be branded.
I'm going to say
racer,
no.
do you-
As a racer, I'm going to say no because it's another law, and we don't need any more laws. What we need is just people doing the right thing. And you can't mandate with that the government, because then what defines a race? A drag race? Did you autocross it? Oh, you've got to brand your title now, and then you'll have more ammunition for warranties to be voided, even though your new performance car comes with a membership in the National Autosport Association. We're going to void your warranty if you take it on there, and that's a real case right now. So no more laws.
That's a Toyota
no more
thing,
laws.
right?
Just be a good person. Zach is actually in here, oddly enough, and Zach
Hold on. Who's Zach?
I'm sorry, Zach Miller, our buddy Zach Miller in the Nerd
Cars
Herd,
and Bids.
and he is defending the actions of Bring a Trailer. Now he says where he would have done it differently, but he's all about doing it because that's how the free market works. In the places where I sell cars, saying that it was a race car would add value. I think that would have shut down the controversy. This car would have been snapped up for even more money had they presented that it was a championship car. But that's my opinion. They instead tried to go the low mileage, lived in a garage route. As a factory or well-maintained race car, it gets oil changes every 200 miles and has a team of technicians paying attention to it. So in many cases, it does represent a value. If you market it right, and it would just been easier, and we still wouldn't be talking about it if they said this is a former race car. We'd have moved on to the next thing. So just be a good person.
Yeah, and that's in answer to Deeb's question, it's like, this is not something that should be. It shouldn't be illegal to not disclose that it was raced. It's just ishy for the platform. BAT is fully in their rights to do this, but that just lowers their reputation. I mean, they have the great reputation because they're the biggest, I guess. But I don't know. This makes Doug DeMuro look a heck of a lot better. I got to tell you that, because I really don't think they would do this. And it seems like more and more often that Cars and Bids, as time progresses, that BAT is just getting too big for its own britches. And it seems like they're slacking and they just don't care. They're pumping out hundreds of 100 or more cars a day, and stuff like this is going through the cracks. Did they have to stop the listing? No, they could do whatever the heck they want, but it would have made them look better. And we know that P-Car Market doesn't give an F, and they would totally try to hide this stuff, and Cars and Bids would do something different. So there it is.
How do you combat this in the future from Bring a Trailer perspective?
Cars and Bids doesn't do it, and that's how you combat it. Cars and Bids eats BAT's lunch at some point. At some point, people start going, all right, this BAT thing that used to be the guys in town. All right, well, if I'm looking for cars that I know aren't misrepresented, the only game in town right now seems to be C&B. Because you can't trust P-Car Market. You got to look more closely. And BAT, they're letting things slip through the cracks. So I think it's like Mental said, the market will help fix this problem. And I think BAT, if they want to stay on top, they need to be on top of stuff like this a little bit more aggressively. All right, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Does the fact that this car was raced and not disclosed, and not just raced, put on a track a couple of times for a DE day, but full-blown, this was a goddamn race car and now made back into a street car. How much does that affect the value, and what do you think of what this car actually sold for? Let us know in those comments.
Nerd! Get those nerds!